Hello, everybody. We will get started in just a couple minutes here. We're going to be discussing some different things related to exercise today. So feel free to hang tight. Again, we'll get started right at 12:30 to make sure I don't run myself over on time because I do like to talk. Um, if you have any questions as we're going through, please feel free to type them into the chat box. If I don't get to them in real time, I'll make sure I answer them when the presentation is finished. And then again, just a reminder to make sure that your microphones are muted when you join in. And so far, everybody is. So thank you for doing that. So we'll hang tight again just for about another minute here before we get started. And then we'll kick things off. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started here with the presentation today, everybody. So again, thank you for tuning in. We've got a solid number of participants here today, so I like that. So thank you for again tuning in. We're gonna go ahead and share my screen with you guys here, and we are gonna be covering some different information on exercise today. So maybe you've been doing well with changing your nutritional habits, but you've still been kind of struggling to find a way to fall into an exercise program that works well for you. So just going to discuss again some of this stuff very briefly. It's tough to get real in depth in 30 minutes, but we'll go over just some general information, just some different discussions with that. And again, if you guys have questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box as we roll along. I'll check that a couple times throughout here. Otherwise, we'll get those at the end of the session as well. So, getting started with exercise and what is right for me. We'll first start off with just the basic definition of exercise, in case you don't know. But it's physical activity that is planned, structured, and repetitive for the purpose of conditioning the body. It includes cardiovascular conditioning, strength and resistance training, and flexibility. So it's not just cardio, it's not just strength training, it's not just stretching. So it is an all-encompassing aspect. And a well-balanced plan really does include all areas of focus. So you don't want to leave one out, even if you don't really like to do it. And it is tailored to the individual based on goals and abilities. So what may work well for me isn't necessarily going to work well for you. So we have to work to determine what is the best option for you in regards to exercise. So you want to start out with developing a plan. There's no one size fits all plan when it comes to exercise, like I said. You are an individual, unique person, and what works best for you may not work for the next person. So, don't get tied into the idea that there's just this one certain way you have to work out because someone said it worked for them, and if you do it, you're going to get the same results. That is not necessarily true. Everybody's body reacts differently. As far as, exercise difficulty, certain people are capable of performing more difficult exercise because maybe they've been doing it for a while. So, if somebody says, hey, try this workout, if they've been working out for 5 years and you haven't been working out at all, it's going to be extremely difficult for you. It's probably going to be very discouraging if you're not able to complete it, or if you complete it and you're sore for 2 weeks when you're done. So you want to be careful with things like that. And it's great if you have people encouraging you to exercise, but make sure that you're taking care of you and making sure that the exercise fits you well. You can reach your goals faster and reach them well by combining cardiovascular and strength training. So they're both great, but it's best if you can perform both of them together. So you don't want to exclude cardio, which I have been guilty of in the past. because I like strength training better. So I've been working on doing some form of cardio at least twice a week since the new year started, which is a big surprise, showing me some better results, and I can feel those results, and I feel better physically. And you can't just exclude strength training because yes, cardio is great, but you've got to make sure that you're supporting healthy muscle growth and maintaining muscle mass. So it's important to mix both of those together. And I just see I had somebody else join in, so I want to write names down so I don't miss anybody. So you might be wondering how you get started. And the most basic way to get started with an exercise, other than popping on Google and looking up exercises for beginners, is to meet with a fitness professional like myself, a little shameless plug there, to determine what your fitness goals are and develop a plan. So, as hopefully you all know, as part of being an employee here, you have free access to me for individual assessment, for helping with goal setting and exercise development. Personal training doesn't cost you any money, which is a massive, massive savings if you've ever looked into personal training elsewhere. And if you're not really interested in personal training, but you want guidance on an exercise program, I am here to help you build that. I can build something that you can do on your own as long as you have enough motivation to do that on your own and you don't need someone else there with you to make sure that you're following along with that workout. That is an option. And it's free. It doesn't cost you any money to meet with me every week and go over exercises or just to sit down and discuss what's going well, what's not going well, if you're looking for some recommendations for help. So again, whether it's myself or if you belong to a gym somewhere else and there's certified fitness professionals there, utilize that if you have that availability. Now you want to make sure you're working with someone who is certified. So anybody can say they're a fitness professional and have a certification they can complete in a couple hours online. You want to make sure you're working with someone who is a certified professional and has a solid understanding of what that means. Next thing you've got to do is commit to change. So it's going to be challenging to get used to a new routine where you may be going from no exercise or exercise once or twice a week to trying to exercise on more days than not during the week. But once you get into that routine and over time it becomes your new normal. So it becomes regular. So if you go a day without a workout, you're like, geez, something really didn't feel right today. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't get to work out today. So that's what you're working towards. And that might sound crazy where you get to the end of the day and it's like, oh, geez, I forgot to work out. Maybe your mindset now is, oh, darn, I missed one today. Oh, well, we want to get away from that so that when you miss a workout, you're like, okay, I got to make sure that tomorrow I don't miss another one. Getting support is also important when you're getting started. If you can consistently work out on your own, that's great. If you have that intrinsic motivation where you don't need someone with you or you don't need something outside of your own self to motivate you, that's fantastic because oftentimes it is easier to get started and commit when you have a lot of that self-intrinsic motivation. If you don't, find a workout partner. That's a number one easy way to start. If you tell somebody else, okay, let's go to the gym at 5, it's a lot harder to not show up if someone else is coming with you, because if you don't show up, you stand them up and they're not going to like that and you're going to feel bad about that. So find a workout partner. Other things to consider, again, personal or small group training. Personal training is available to employees. It is available to you guys through me at the hospital. Now they're using the wellness, the group exercise room right now as our vaccine clinic, which everybody knows. But the wellness center is still available too, and that is an option. So I've got to make sure, I can't say for sure that we can do that, but so I've got to make sure that personal training can work, but it's one-on-one base, so it's not a lot of people. I would imagine that's something that would not be frowned upon. So if you're looking for someone to help you with that, I'm your guy, and we can use the wellness center. We may have to modify how we do things a little bit, but there is still open space for certain activities. So that's something we could look at as well. You could also look at joining a gym, if my schedule or your schedule just doesn't work out to use our on-site facilities, it's understandable. We would love it if you do. But if not, there are some gym options in Reedsburg and there's some really good places that you can join and get a good experience that way too. So you can consider that as well when you're looking to get started. We just have a couple I've got a couple examples of what a potential week could look like for a beginner and then an intermediate level or advanced level exerciser. So if you're just getting started, the goal is to get some form of activity most days of the week. And the ACSM recommendation, which I've probably talked about 3 or 4 times already in these WebExes, is at least 150 minutes of moderate activity each week, potentially working up to 250 or more. Now, if you haven't been exercising at all, if you're going from zero, you don't need to go from 0 to 150 right away. Because again, you lead to that potential of doing too much, getting too sore, and then having to take off an extended amount of time just to let your body recover. So you don't need to go from 0 to 150. You can start out trying to get maybe 60 or 90 minutes of exercise a week. So that's 30-minute workouts 2 to 3 days a week, and you get started there. And then you add maybe 5 or 10 minutes to each session. And then when you're able, you add another day, and you're doing 4 30-minute workouts a week, and then a day, 4 30-minute workouts a week, and then you build that up. So you don't need to go from nothing to everything, because that's really hard to maintain. It's going to be tough on your body, and it's going to probably lead you to feeling like you want to just give up and not do anything after that point. So just again, a weekly example here of moderate activity would be a 30-minute walk at moderate intensity, which we've discussed in previous webinars. 20 minutes of strength training at a gym or at home on Tuesday. And strength training doesn't mean, back squats and deadlifts. It can be body weight exercise. So strength training doesn't need to require external equipment. It certainly can, and that's great when you work up to that. But if you've done nothing, starting with body weight is better than not doing anything at all. It also helps you build a base to grow off of. Wednesday, we're back to that 30-minute walk at a moderate intensity. And it's a little tough to do that right now if you can't get into a gym on a treadmill, because it is absolutely freezing cold outside, but warmer temperatures are coming, which is great. Thursday, we're back to that 20 minutes of strength training at a gym or at home. Friday, another walk. Saturday would be something like 20 minutes of yoga, or you could spend 20 minutes doing like some mindfulness meditation stuff. So just something that you can do, with stretching. You can throw some core exercises in there. So low level intensity, almost kind of like an active rest. So you're still exercising, but it's at a much lower intensity level. And then Sunday is just like a fun family activity that you can do. So, maybe you like to go for bike rides, or you like to go to Mirror Lake State Park and do some hiking on the trails. Something that is enjoyable, that gets you out, gets you moving, canoeing, kayaking, go to the pool and swim. You go to the park and throw a frisbee around or play catch, something like that, something just to get you going, or taking the dogs for a walk, something like that. So just something that you find that's more fun, because oftentimes exercise for people who are just getting started, it initially feels like just a lot of work until you get used to it and enjoy it, and then you look forward to it. So throwing stuff in where it makes it a little bit more just feel like it's kind of structured play is great. And that reminds me of stuff that we do with younger kids, is if you make it like structured play, it's more fun. Well, adults like to play too. So just a way to kind of change that up and make it a little bit more enjoyable as you get started. And once exercise becomes fun, then you're really hitting a great stride. So a layout like that would be a total of 180 minutes of exercise. And now you might be saying, well, Jason, geez, that's 7 days a week of exercise. Yes, it is. You can modify that. And again, we want to get to 150, but even if you're just getting started out, you could exercise Monday through Thursday. That's going to give you 100 minutes of activity. And then you could take Friday, Saturday, Sunday off to start if you needed to for your recovery. And then you slowly work those days in. So there are ways that you can do that. Now for the moderate to advanced exerciser, if we've got anybody in here that is at that level, or once you work to that level, you're going to get into a regular exercise routine, and you're going to want to work on gradually increasing your weekly activity minutes, as well as exercise difficulty to see results. So if you just continue to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over, and you never increase how long you exercise for or the level of intensity you exercise at, you're going to hit a plateau at some point in your weight loss where everything stalls out. So this can help avoid hitting that plateau. Now what this could look like would be 45 minutes of circuit training with weights. So we're graduating past just body weight exercises and we're adding in some dumbbells. And it doesn't need to be super heavy. You know, they don't need to be 40, 50, 60-pound dumbbells, but just some external resistance so your body's like, oh, wait, this feels a little different. I'm going to have to work a little bit harder to do this. Tuesday would be a higher intensity cardio option. So HIIT, high intensity interval training, is a great option for this because if you don't have a ton of time, you can get a really good workout in a short amount of time. You've got to push yourself though. So you can't do a HIIT workout but go through it at about 50% exertion. You've got to work as hard as you can while you are exercising. So it is a little tricky. It is tough. And again, it's why you want to be a little bit more advanced or a little bit further along in your exercise. But just because it says HIIT, it doesn't mean you need to be doing burpees or, tons of mountain climbers. You can do those things, but it could be something just like intervals on a treadmill. So maybe you've been walking at a relatively moderate pace and you feel like you want to try some jogging or maybe a little bit of running. You jump on the treadmill and you do an interval of running, and then you follow that up with a longer rest period of walking. So you could run for 20 seconds on the treadmill and then walk for a minute. Run for 20 seconds, walk for a minute. You do that for 15 minutes, and there's your HIIT workout. So there are ways to do that, and I'm happy to help you develop those. Wednesday would be a recovery day, so it'd be a 30-minute, nice, easy walk and some stretching, so you get a built-in rest day there. Thursday, we're going back to the 45 minutes of circuit training with weights. Friday, we've got another 20 minutes of a high-intensity exercise. So again, run, walk intervals. You could do that multiple times during the week. Or again, if you're into cycling, we have indoor cycles down here where you do the same thing. You do a sprint on the bike, and then you do a lower intensity recovery, a sprint again, and you do that for a set amount of time. Saturday, 30 minutes of a low intensity activity like yoga, or again, you can just go through a stretching routine, or if you have a foam roller, you can do that and work on your mobility. Sunday, we're looking at a longer level exercise. So we've got 75 minutes of a moderate intensity jog, hike, or walk. So you're working harder for a longer duration of time. And that would give you 265 minutes of exercise throughout that week. So again, this is something to work up to. These are just examples. They're not necessarily going to be what is best for you or what works best for your schedule. And there are ways to manipulate how many minutes you exercise on each day if you don't want to work out every single day of the week. We can make some of these workouts longer. So there are ways to do it to fit your schedule. But these, again, were just a couple different examples. Strength training. A lot of people think strength training, they think about that and they think about like Arnold Schwarzenegger, or they think about The Rock, or they think about professional athletes who are jacked and super, super muscular. If you watch the NBA, a lot of those guys, LeBron James, Giannis with the Bucks, all those guys have tons of muscle. You're not going to look like that just from strength training and using weights. Those guys follow very strict diets, very specific strength training regimens. You're not going to turn into a bodybuilder if you lift weights. So know that it does not need to involve heavy weightlifting for strength training, but it can, and it's great if you enjoy it. So if you like to lift weights, awesome. I love lifting weights, so I think that's fantastic. And if you look at me, again, I'm not a bodybuilder, but I incorporate weights with my strength training every single week. So you're not going to turn into a big muscle monster, so don't worry about that. Now, strength training does include strength exercises for the upper and lower body, so you can't just focus on your upper body or just your lower body. We want to make sure that we're balanced, and it also helps to build a more well-rounded program doing that. Bodyweight exercises, as I've already touched on, are a great way to start if you haven't included strength training before, or if it just hasn't been consistent in your exercise routine. So you can start with just doing bodyweight squats. You can do wall push-ups. You can do lunges in place. There's a lot you can do without weights. Then, once you get into it, you can add resistance in the form of, exercise bands, dumbbells, or kettlebells as you get stronger. And if you have a home gym, another great option, we have one downstairs here in the Wellness Center, so that's a way that you can perform some exercises with resistance. Or, if you have a membership at like Snap Fitness or Anytime Fitness or Peterson and Company in town here, or the gym, I think it's Fry's Family Fitness over by the high school. They probably have strength equipment there that you can use as well. All that stuff is great. You want to start probably with 3 to 4 sets of 10 to 15 reps when you're just getting started, and then that can change and adapt and modify as you get stronger and you look at more potentially advanced strength training programs if it's something you're interested in. So strength training is super important. Don't neglect it. If you don't know where to start, please come talk to me. Cardiovascular training, again, is we want exercise at a moderate pace. It's a great way to improve your overall health. You don't need to completely kill yourself on cardio every time you do it because that is not great for your health. But just some examples, brisk walks, jogging and running, hiking, bicycling, canoeing or kayaking, snowshoeing. We have a lot of opportunities for great outdoor activity around Reedsburg, so that's a big plus. You can start out with a set time or distance goal, and that's what I've kind of done for myself right now. I have never been a big runner. I've told pretty much anybody who will listen that I really don't like doing it. But my brother has gotten really into it in the last few years, and he's kind of, dropped little hints in my ear that I should probably be doing it a little bit. So I bought some new shoes in the new year because I figure if I spend money on running shoes, then I'll actually do it, and I have been so far, so that's been good. But I just started out with a set time goal because in talking with my brother when he got started, he was trying to get certain distances every time. And when he wasn't as efficient of a runner, to try to run for 3 or 4 miles, it would take him a long time and he would just be absolutely exhausted. So he kind of said to me, start with a goal of trying to run for 10 minutes without a break or 15 minutes without a break. And so that's what I've done, and that's worked well for me. The other thing that people find challenging with winter, of course, is you're on a treadmill, and some people find that boring. So it can be tricky to hop on a treadmill and just run at the same speed. So using intervals as you're on the treadmill with changing, the speed that you're running at. You can change the incline of the treadmills down here that you're working at. That can help break it up a little bit. And again, I'm happy to help you develop programs like that. Once you achieve your set time or distance goal, and it's not real hard. So, if I started getting to the 15-minute mark on the treadmill through different workouts or just steady state cardio, I'd be like, oh, this isn't too bad. I try to push it another couple minutes, and then I get a couple more minutes in and be like, okay, yep, I'm starting to feel this, and slow it back down or stop it there. And you just gradually increase that as you go. If you're short on time or you want a higher intensity cardio workout, HIIT is a great place to go. I try to incorporate a couple of these into my workouts each week. So high intensity interval training is performing intervals of maximal effort followed by a rest and then repeating that for a set amount of time or rounds. So you stick to 2 or 3 HIIT workouts a week at most. That allows your body time to recover. So you don't want to just beat yourself to a pulp and not give yourself any recovery time. It is important that you give your body an opportunity to rest and recover. And HIIT workouts are pretty easy to find. And there's a lot of trusted sources online that you can use. So, there's a lot of Tabata workouts. A HIIT workout, again, is, let's say you're on the treadmill and you sprint for 20 seconds or you run. You don't need to sprint, but you run or jog for 20 seconds and you walk for 40 seconds to a minute. And then you repeat that for 10 or 15 minutes. There's your HIIT workout right there. So it doesn't, again, need to be, mountain climbers and burpees and all that stuff. It can as you work up to it, and that's great. But you've got to be able to build your cardiovascular base before tackling some of those higher intensity exercises. We want to work up to at least 150 minutes of moderate level intensity cardiovascular exercise each week. There it is again. I'm going to try to pound that number into your brain. Higher intensity exercise is 75 minutes, if you can hit that, or a combination of the two. So you don't necessarily need 150 minutes of moderate level intensity and then 75 minutes of high intensity and then strength training because you're going to burn yourself out. So it's finding a balance between those that works best for you. Flexibility and mobility, again, is another important one. And this one's kind of, I feel like, often overlooked, myself included, especially when I was in college. This is one that I overlooked a lot. Stretching after workouts can help initiate muscle recovery right away, so that's great. It's a great way to bring your heart rate down after a tough workout as well. So you don't want to finish on the treadmill and your heart rate be, and for me, for example, like up in the 170s, or if I'm really going crazy, like 180. I don't want to go straight from that to just being done and sit down and stop doing what I'm doing. Bringing your heart rate back down to a closer baseline to your resting heart rate is great. So you always want to take a few minutes at least to cool down before you start to stretch as well. Yoga is an excellent form of flexibility and mobility training. It's low impact. and that'll allow you to still be active on rest days. So once in a while, a rest day where you just don't do anything, that's okay, especially if you're really having some tougher workouts in the week. But it's good to be active instead of just not active at all. And yoga is actually quite a challenge, so give it a try. Regular stretching can also help improve joint range of motion as well as balance. So as we age, balance is one thing that does tend to go rather quickly. So if you can maintain a good grasp of your balance, it's going to be better for you as you age. It's going to, reduce the risk of falls, which is hugely important, especially in the winter. So again, flexibility, mobility, essential part of a workout, and it doesn't need to take up a ton of time. Range of motion, of course, is a good one too. So being as healthy as we can is the goal. So just a quick recap here, and this probably is a little bit shorter than I'm used to. I typically go for 30 minutes. We've been at about 25 here. So if you guys do have questions, please, if you haven't, I haven't checked the chat box in a while. So actually, I haven't checked it at all. So if you have questions, please type them in. If you have already typed some questions, I will answer them after we finish up here. So again, just a quick recap. A good exercise routine includes strength training, cardiovascular training, and flexibility and stretching. So make sure you're incorporating all of those. If you don't know where to start with one or the other, please contact me and reach out. There's that number again, 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise each week and build from there. And if you can't get all the way there yet, that's okay. Get 60. And then after you get 60, try to get 75. And after you get 75, try to get 90. So just slowly build that number up throughout the week instead of trying to tackle it all at once. It's going to be easier to manage. It's not going to break your body down as much. It's not going to break your spirit if you don't hit it. We want to build confidence that we can carry on and continue successfully once this challenge is over. Try to be active on more days of the week than not. So more days of the week than not would be 4 out of 7 days. So try to do some form of activity at least 4 days a week. And if you're doing 4 days a week of activity at 30 minutes, that's already 120 minutes right there. So it is definitely achievable. If you're short on time, give HIIT a try for cardio, but make sure you're prepared for the challenge and that it's going to bring. And you have to perform the HIIT at a high enough intensity for it to be effective. So you can't just jump on the treadmill and walk slow for 20 minutes and then bump it up for a minute at the end and say, oh, that was a HIIT workout. It's going to be tough, so make sure that you're prepared for that. Work with a fitness professional like myself, or if it's outside RAMC, if it works better for your schedule that way, that's fine too. There's some good ones in town, so take advantage of that. But work with a fitness professional at least to help build your plan. Maybe you're not interested in personal training. Maybe you're not interested in small group training. You'd rather just do it on your own and you have the motivation to do that. That's great. But working with a professional can help you in terms of building an effective exercise plan. And then finally, get support. So, whether that's from family members, whether it's with a coworker who's looking to exercise as well, and maybe they need somebody to kind of help nudge them in the right direction and take that jump. You can be that person, but also find that person for you. It's going to be easier to maintain this lifestyle change for the long term if you have a strong supporting cast. So it's tough to go it alone, but that's what your peers are there for. So if you guys have questions, again, please feel free to drop questions in the comments in the chat box. Thank you for tuning in this afternoon. I appreciate it. We've got a few more of these, so if anybody has any ideas for topics they would like me to cover, please feel free to email those to me. Next week, I'm planning on our WebEx discussing motivation and how to stay motivated as we kind of get to our midpoint here with week 4 and then on. That's typically when motivation can start to wane, when you start to run into some challenges. So we're planning on talking about motivation next week. If you have other topics that I have not covered or any information you're interested in related to health and fitness, again, please shoot them over to me. I'll be happy to look at those and develop a presentation on that as well. So with that, that is everything that I've got for the presentation. I'm going to turn the screen sharing off at this point. Again, if you have questions, please leave them in the chat box. I'll leave that open for a few more minutes here to answer those questions, and then we'll be all set. And thank you for tuning in. So that's everything that we've got with the presentation. So again, if you don't have any other questions, you're free to log out at any time.